The chair recognizes the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. O'Halloran, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I stand here today as a former law enforcement officer and a member of the House Law Enforcement Caucus to honor the brave men and women in uniform who have paid the ultimate sacrifice to protect, and to thank those officers who are putting their life on the line every day to protect our communities. We owe a great debt of gratitude to these men and women and their families who make their own sacrifices as they see their loved ones off every day. I remember when I went off every day and said goodbye to my wife and my children, usually worked nighttime, and I remember afterwards coming home and on some nights when an officer had been killed or shot, and they'd mention it on TV, but they wouldn't give the name out until the family was notified. Those times for all the families in a large major police department or a small one are traumatic. And after a while, my son, who was very young at the time, would sit on the stairway going up to the second floor in the bedrooms late in the evening until I came home. I have lost friends and partners in the line of duty. One, Irwin Jackson, after he saved my life on a robbery arrest, within a year he was shot dead on a call. I have grieved with their families, and during the most difficult times, I've experienced firsthand the real sacrifices they make. This week, my wife Pat and I paused to remember our friends and reflect on their service. Mr. Speaker, last year, 129 officers died in the line of duty across this country. And so far this year, preliminary reports show 54 officers have died. Arizona has lost one brave officer so far this year. The family of Nogales police officer Jesus Cordova and the entire community continue to mourn his death after he was shot and killed by a carjacking suspect last month. He was the first Nogales officer to be shot and killed in 130 years. These law enforcement officers served and protected their communities admirably. And while we can never repay the debt we owe them and their families, we will never forever remember their service. This week, 360 officers were memorialized on the National Law Enforcement Memorial here in Washington, D.C. 3 brave Arizonans were honored. Paul Lazinski of the El Mirage Police Department, whose watch ended last year. Alfred Moore of the Arizona Department of Liquor Control, whose watch ended in 1965. And Rupert Hopkins of the Pima County Sheriff's Office, whose watch ended in 1950. The memorial also includes Navajo Nation officer Houston Largo, who died last year while representing or responding to a domestic violence call in New Mexico. As we look to the future, it is important to highlight the work being done at the local, county, and state levels to improve the relationship between police officers and their communities. I have seen firsthand how community policing practices benefit both the communities and the officers on patrol. It improves safety, increases trust, and it reduces violence. Communities across Arizona are leading the way in developing strong relationships between these two groups, and I applaud their hard work. Mr. Speaker, I am grateful for the support I have seen this week for our law enforcement community. I want to specifically say I addressed how my family felt. I spent a lot of time at funerals with the families of those that had fallen, and too much time. And I spent too many times at bedsides with seriously wounded officers. And I was a homicide detective, and I investigated their shootings. Please remember in your prayers not only the officers that have fallen, but their loved ones. And I yield.